Imagine finally having a space that's yours, the result of years of grinding, sacrificing nights out, and juggling multiple jobs. Now imagine your own family, without asking, deciding to give that space away to your sister and acting like you have no say at all. That was me, Olivia Jensen, 29, just weeks ago, sitting stunned at a family dinner while my parents casually announced, "Your sister will live in your apartment." Like it was a fact, not a question. A moment that shifted everything I thought I knew about family boundaries and standing up for myself. Stick with me. This story is about more than just an apartment. It's about reclaiming your voice when the people who should support you seem to treat your hard work like a public resource. If you've ever felt invisible in your family or struggled to set boundaries, you're not alone. And this story might just give you the courage to say no, even when it's the hardest thing to do. Olivia Jensen had spent years chasing a dream many take for granted, a place to call her own. The apartment she finally secured in downtown Portland was more than just four walls and a ceiling. It was the physical embodiment of every late night, every extra shift at the coffee shop, every sacrifice she had made to build a life independent of her family's shadow. The exposed brick walls, the warm glow of morning sunlight on the hardwood floors, these were not just features of a living space. They were markers of her perseverance and resilience. Each inch of that apartment was hard-won, a tangible symbol of her independence and the countless quiet victories that had brought her to this moment. For Olivia, this apartment represented freedom. Growing up as the middle child in the Jensen family was a constant exercise in invisibility. Her parents had always favored her older sister Rachel, the golden child, whose artistic talents and struggles were met with applause and endless support. Rachel's gallery showings were celebrated with family and friends backed by their parents' generosity, while Olivia's academic achievements were quietly glossed over, acknowledged with a polite, "That's nice," during family dinners. It wasn't that her parents didn't care about Olivia's accomplishments. It was that they seemed incapable of seeing her outside of the framework they had constructed. A framework where Rachel deserved spotlight and support and Olivia was simply expected to comply. Her journey through college was marked by silent endurance. Working 3 jobs while maintaining a full scholarship was no small feat, but it rarely earned her the recognition she craved from her family. Every extra shift she took at the campus coffee shop, every tutoring session squeezed between classes, every penny saved rather than spent on weekend getaways, had a singular purpose: to build a life that was hers alone. When she signed the lease on her apartment 2 years ago, she finally felt the weight of independence settle on her shoulders, not as a burden, but as a triumph. This apartment was her sanctuary, a place where she could breathe, think, and simply be herself, without the expectations and comparisons that had long defined her existence. It was the space where she reclaimed her identity, away from the echoes of family dynamics that had left her feeling invisible and undervalued for most of her life. But on that evening during their monthly family dinner, everything changed in an instant. Olivia sat across from her parents, her sister Rachel perched beside them with a look of entitlement that made her blood run cold. The words her mother spoke were casual, as if discussing the weather. "Your sister will live in your apartment." There was no room for discussion, no invitation for consent, only an assumption that her hard-earned space belonged to the family collective to be handed over at their whim. Olivia felt a quiet scream rising in her chest, a mixture of shock, disbelief, and simmering anger. The look in her mother's eyes was not one of suggestion, but of quiet command, and Rachel's smug smile confirmed the reality she was forced to face. Her apartment, her refuge, was no longer hers to protect. The weight of years spent trying to establish boundaries crashed down upon her. Her family had a long history of disregarding her needs and wishes, treating her life as something to be managed rather than respected. She remembered the summer at 16 when her parents volunteered her to babysit her cousin's children every weekend without consulting her. She recalled the college days when distant relatives were sent to stay at her off-campus apartment without warning, the morning calls arriving only when they were already on her doorstep. Each time she attempted to assert her boundaries, she was met with indifference or dismissal, as if her desires were obstacles to family harmony rather than essential parts of her personhood. This time, however, something inside Olivia shifted. It wasn't just about an apartment anymore. It was about her right to be seen, to be heard, and to have control over her own life. The casual way her family assumed ownership over her home was the last straw in a pattern of disregard that had defined her existence. She sat there, outwardly calm, taking a sip of her wine as the conversation moved forward. Inside, her mind raced with thoughts and emotions that she struggled to contain. She knew that nodding along was expected, that resistance would only invite more pressure. But beneath the surface, she was already plotting a different course, one where she would no longer be a passive participant in decisions that affected her. This apartment was more than a physical space. It was the culmination of her hard work and sacrifice. To lose it even temporarily to her sister without her consent was to have that effort erased. Olivia realized she needed to reclaim her power to establish boundaries that could no longer be ignored. The dinner ended, but for Olivia, the battle had just begun. What followed was a journey of quiet defiance, careful planning, and steadfast resolve. Olivia knew the road ahead would be difficult, that family loyalty and expectations would be weaponized against her. But for the first time, she was ready to stand firm, not just for her apartment, but for herself. After the shock of that family dinner settled, Olivia found herself standing at a crossroads, caught between the weight of expectation and the urgent need to protect what was hers. She knew that simply saying no wouldn't be enough. The Jensen family had perfected a strategy of relentless pressure and quiet manipulation, often wearing her down with waves of guilt and unspoken demands. This time, Olivia understood she had to respond differently, with a clear plan, a firm voice, and an unshakable resolve. Her first step was to reclaim control over her space in a way that couldn't be ignored or overridden by family whims. She remembered a conversation with her colleague Derek, who had recently mentioned his condo was undergoing emergency repairs, leaving him in need of a temporary place to stay. Derek was dependable and respectful, someone she trusted implicitly, and more importantly, someone her family didn't know. Inviting him to stay while she was away for work would be a simple, effective way to block Rachel's uninvited move-in. Before moving forward, Olivia reached out to the property manager, Tanya, to clarify all the rules about guests and temporary occupants. She wanted to make sure that everything she did was within the bounds of the lease and building policies. Tanya explained that any guest staying more than 2 weeks required approval and proper paperwork. This gave Olivia the framework she needed to protect herself legally and practically. She wasn't just asserting her rights emotionally, she was building a solid foundation to stand on. Despite her careful planning, the family's reaction was immediate and forceful. Rachel sent her a presumptuous text about what furniture to bring, already assuming Olivia's compliance. Her mother called repeatedly, peppering her with questions and demands about paint colors and artwork removal to accommodate Rachel's belongings. The sense of entitlement was staggering. Olivia's apartment was no longer her private refuge. It had been transformed in their minds into a shared family space to be rearranged and repurposed without her consent. The most frustrating part was the way her concerns were dismissed as petty or selfish. Her parents framed their imposition as a generous gift meant to bring the sisters closer together, ignoring the fundamental disrespect behind their unilateral decision. They failed to see that for Olivia, this was not about generosity or family bonding. It was about autonomy and respect, concepts that seemed foreign in the dynamic they had long cultivated. When her family arrived unannounced at her apartment with trucks and boxes, Olivia's carefully maintained calm was tested. The building's security stepped in, refusing them entry without proper authorization. Olivia watched from afar as her parents' confident demeanor faltered under the scrutiny of the building staff. Her father's usual authoritative stance met resistance, something rare and unsettling for him. The tension crackled through the air as Olivia's family realized their assumptions would no longer carry the weight they once did. The messages and calls escalated into emotional assaults. Her father threatened legal action and even threatened to come to her workplace. Her mother's voicemails shifted from confusion to accusations, questioning Olivia's loyalty and accusing her of betrayal. Rachel's texts were filled with anger and disbelief, attacking Olivia's character and intentions. Through it all, Olivia stood firm. She refused to engage in the back and forth of guilt and blame. Instead, she held fast to the truth that her boundaries were not just necessary, but vital. It was a test of her strength and commitment, a defining moment in her journey towards self-respect and autonomy. This experience was not unique to Olivia. Many people face similar battles within their families where love and obligation are entangled with control and expectation. The struggle to set boundaries is often complicated by fear of rejection, of conflict, or of being seen as difficult. But Olivia's story shows that boundaries are acts of courage and self-preservation, not signs of weakness or disloyalty. In this process, Olivia also discovered the importance of emotional distance. While her family sought to pull her back into old patterns of codependence and compliance, she learned to step back and observe the situation with clarity. She recognized the familiar tactics, emotional appeals, guilt trips, accusations, and chose not to respond with anger or defensiveness, but with quiet determination. Her relationship with her sister Rachel, once defined by comparison and resentment, began to shift as well. Rachel's eventual outreach, hesitant and tentative, opened a small door for honest conversation. Olivia realized that boundaries could create space, not just for protection, but for healing and deeper connection. By standing her ground, Olivia wasn't just saving her apartment, she was saving herself. She was reclaiming her voice in a family conversation that had long excluded it. And in doing so, she set a powerful example not only for her family, but for anyone who has ever felt unseen or unheard in their own life. This chapter of Olivia's story is a testament to the complexity of family dynamics and the strength required to navigate them. It reminds us that love does not demand sacrifice of self and that the hardest battles often lead to the most meaningful growth. In protecting her space, Olivia found freedom not just physical, but emotional and psychological, a freedom that would shape the rest of her life. The weeks following Olivia's firm stance against her family's encroachment on her apartment were some of the most challenging she had ever faced. What began as a quiet assertion of boundaries quickly escalated into a full-blown family crisis, testing not only her resolve, but her understanding of what family really meant. Each day brought a new wave of calls, texts, and emotionally charged messages, yet Olivia remained steadfast in her decision, guided by a deep sense of self-respect and the conviction that her home and by extension her autonomy was not negotiable. It was difficult to convey the emotional toll this situation took on her. On the surface, Olivia maintained a calm and composed demeanor, carefully managing the logistics of her upcoming work trip and ensuring Derek, her trusted colleague, had everything he needed to occupy the apartment temporarily. But beneath that calm was a swirling storm of frustration, sadness, and a surprising sense of liberation. For the first time, she was refusing to be a silent participant in her family's long-standing patterns of control and entitlement. The arrival of her family at her building unannounced and armed with moving boxes and trucks was a defining moment. Olivia watched from a distance as the building's security officers stood firm against her parents' insistence on access. Her father, usually commanding and authoritative, was visibly unsettled by the refusal. It was a rare crack in his demeanor, revealing the depth of their miscalculation in assuming Olivia would simply comply. This confrontation was more than a dispute over furniture or space. It was a clash between Olivia's emerging independence and the entrenched family dynamics that had long sought to diminish it. In the days that followed, the emotional barrage intensified. Her father's threats of legal action and workplace visits, her mother's tearful voicemails accusing Olivia of betrayal, and Rachel's messages questioning her loyalty, all sought to wear down her defenses. Yet Olivia recognized these tactics for what they were: desperate attempts to regain control and avoid facing the reality that she was no longer willing to surrender her boundaries. Instead of responding in kind, she chose a different path, refusing to engage in the emotional tug-of-war. This was not a battle to be won through argument or confrontation, but through quiet, unyielding conviction. The complexity of Olivia's experience mirrors that of many who struggle with family dynamics, where love and obligation are entangled with control and expectation. Setting boundaries in such contexts can feel like an act of rebellion, especially when family members interpret those boundaries as rejection. Olivia's story underscores the painful truth that sometimes protecting oneself means facing discomfort and even alienation, but that this sacrifice is often necessary for genuine healing and growth. Amid this turmoil, Olivia also discovered the power of emotional distance, not as a cold withdrawal, but as a protective space from which she could observe and understand her family's behavior without losing herself. She saw the familiar patterns of guilt and manipulation clearly for the first time, and was able to respond from a place of strength rather than fear. This emotional clarity allowed her to maintain her boundaries without burning bridges, preserving the possibility of reconciliation on healthier terms. The evolution of her relationship with Rachel was perhaps the most unexpected outcome. Once defined by rivalry and resentment, their dynamic began to shift as Rachel reached out with tentative attempts at connection. In their conversations, Olivia glimpsed the vulnerabilities behind her sister's entitlement, the insecurities and pressures that had shaped Rachel's own struggles. This newfound understanding did not erase the pain of the past, but opened the door to empathy and a more authentic relationship founded on mutual respect rather than expectation. Olivia's journey revealed that boundaries are not walls meant to isolate, but bridges that create the conditions for healthier relationships. By standing firm, she carved out a space where her voice could be heard and her needs honored, challenging the family to reconsider long-held assumptions about roles and responsibilities. This transformation was neither swift nor easy, but it was profoundly necessary. In reclaiming her apartment and her autonomy, Olivia was reclaiming her identity. She learned that true family connection does not require sacrifice of self, and that love grounded in respect can survive, even flourish, through honest, sometimes difficult conversations. Her story is a reminder that the path to self-respect often involves discomfort and conflict, but that the rewards are a deeper sense of peace and belonging. Ultimately, Olivia's experience stands as a powerful testament to the strength it takes to say no when everyone expects you to say yes. It is a story of growth, courage, and the unwavering belief that protecting one's boundaries is an act of love not just for oneself, but for the family as a whole. Through this journey, Olivia found not only her voice, but a new way forward, one where respect, understanding, and authenticity could finally begin to take root. In the weeks that followed Olivia's decisive stand, the subtle shifts in her family's behavior marked the beginning of a new chapter, one defined by uneasy tension, but also the fragile promise of healing. Family dinners, once predictable and heavy with unspoken expectations, now carried a different energy. The old patterns did not disappear overnight. The dynamics that had shaped their interactions for decades were deeply ingrained, resistant to sudden change. Yet within the discomfort and occasional moments of silence, Olivia sensed something different, an acknowledgement that her voice mattered, that her boundaries could no longer be overlooked. The first family dinner after the conflict was fraught with tentative gestures and careful words. Olivia arrived early, choosing a corner table that gave her a clear view of the entrance, a quiet reassurance amid the nerves fluttering in her chest. Her mother was there first, punctual as always, her carefully composed expression betraying a mixture of apprehension and hope. Her father followed his usual stern demeanor, softened by a subtle respect, while Rachel sat across from Olivia, eyes downcast and hands wrapped around her untouched cup of coffee. The conversation began cautiously. Olivia's mother tried to frame their past imposition as an act of love, emphasizing their desire to support Rachel and bring the sisters closer. But Olivia was prepared. She listened patiently, then gently challenged the assumption that family means sacrificing one's needs for another's convenience. The double standard that had long favored Rachel came into sharp relief as Olivia asked the difficult questions. Why was her autonomy so easily dismissed? Why had her feelings been secondary all along? Rachel's voice was quieter now, tinged with vulnerability rather than entitlement. She confessed that she had not known the full extent of the plans or the impact on Olivia until the confrontation. This admission, though tentative, was a breakthrough, an opening for honest dialogue, where before there had been only silent assumptions. Olivia responded not with anger, but with empathy, acknowledging the pressures Rachel faced as the favored child and the complexities that shaped her behavior. Her parents, though still struggling to fully grasp the shift, began to see the necessity of change. Olivia outlined clear expectations moving forward: open communication, mutual respect, and the fundamental right to say no without being labeled selfish or difficult. Her father, often distant and businesslike, surprised her with a nod of approval, acknowledging the strength it took to stand firm. This gesture, small but significant, symbolized a new level of understanding. As the evening unfolded, Olivia realized that the hardest battles often lead to the most meaningful connections. The tension between them had not vanished, but it had softened, replaced by a cautious willingness to listen and adapt. The relationships within the Jensen family were far from perfect, but they were evolving, shaped by a newfound respect for boundaries and individual needs. In the days that followed, Olivia and Rachel took tentative steps toward rebuilding their sisterhood. Their conversations grew more frequent and genuine, moving beyond the surface-level interactions that had characterized their past. Rachel shared her struggles with mental health and the pressures of living up to family expectations, offering Olivia a glimpse into a side of her she had never fully understood. In turn, Olivia shared her own journey toward independence and the challenges she faced in claiming her space and voice. This exchange fostered empathy and deepened their bond, transforming rivalry into solidarity. For Olivia, this was a profound lesson that family is not defined by roles assigned at birth or by unspoken rules, but by the willingness to understand and support each other authentically. The holiday season that year brought its own test. Instead of the usual tense gatherings marked by unspoken grievances, Olivia's mother called ahead to ask what dish she would bring to Christmas dinner. It was a small but meaningful shift, a sign that her family was beginning to respect her choices and acknowledge her as an equal participant rather than a passive bystander. Though the journey ahead remained uncertain, the groundwork for healthier relationships had been laid. Olivia's story is a testament to the transformative power of setting boundaries and standing firm in one's truth. It shows that asserting your needs does not have to sever ties, but can instead open the door to deeper connection and mutual respect. Family relationships are complex and often messy, but they can evolve when honesty and courage replace silence and compliance. Ultimately, Olivia found that reclaiming her space was about more than just an apartment. It was about reclaiming her identity, her voice, and her right to be seen and respected. Through this experience, she learned that the path to authentic relationships requires patience, perseverance, and the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. It is a journey not just of resistance but of healing, a journey that leads to a richer, more honest understanding of what family truly means. As the holiday season approached, Olivia found herself reflecting deeply on the journey she had traveled, a journey marked by conflict, courage, and a profound reevaluation of what family truly meant. The shifts in her relationships with her parents and sister had been neither swift nor easy, yet they had opened a door to a more authentic and respectful connection. The Christmas gathering at her parents' house, once a source of anxiety and tension, now held the promise of something different, an opportunity to celebrate not just tradition, but growth. Olivia's mother had called ahead, not with demands or expectations, but with a simple question about what dish Olivia would bring to the dinner. This gesture, small on the surface, carried immense significance. It was a sign that her family was beginning to recognize her as an equal participant, someone whose preferences and boundaries deserved consideration. For Olivia, it was a quiet acknowledgement of her hard-won voice within the family dynamic, a voice that had long been drowned out by unspoken assumptions and entrenched roles. The dinner itself was not without moments of tension. Old habits die hard, and the family's history of unbalanced expectations and emotional patterns cast a shadow over the festivities. Yet beneath the surface, Olivia sensed a new undercurrent, one of tentative respect and genuine effort to listen. Conversations were more measured, and the familiar rush to impose or override was replaced by pauses that allowed space for everyone's perspective. Rachel in particular had changed. The sister who once moved through family gatherings with an air of entitlement now seemed more grounded, more aware of the impact her actions had on those around her. Their interactions were no longer defined by rivalry or resentment, but by a growing sense of mutual respect. Olivia saw glimpses of vulnerability in Rachel's laughter, and the way she listened attentively, no longer dismissive or distracted. It was a subtle but powerful transformation born from the difficult conversations and emotional reckonings that had unfolded in recent months. For Olivia, the experience was a powerful reminder that healing is rarely linear. Family dynamics are complex tapestries woven from years of patterns, expectations, and emotions. Changing those patterns requires patience, courage, and a willingness to confront discomfort not just from others, but from within oneself. Olivia had to wrestle with her own fears of rejection and guilt, learning that setting boundaries was not a betrayal but an act of self-respect and love. This growth extended beyond the immediate family as well. Olivia found herself more confident in other relationships, recognizing the importance of clear communication and mutual respect. The lessons she had learned about standing firm, even when it felt isolating, became a foundation for healthier connections in every aspect of her life. She realized that the strength to say no, to protect her needs without apology, was not just a boundary, it was a gift she gave to herself and those who truly cared for her. Reflecting on the year, Olivia understood that her journey was not just about reclaiming her apartment or asserting her independence, it was about reclaiming her identity within her family and the world. It was about learning to demand respect and to offer it in return. And it was about discovering that family in its best form is a space where authenticity can flourish alongside love. The transformation was not complete, and Olivia knew there would be challenges ahead. Old wounds take time to heal, and the work of maintaining boundaries is ongoing. But the foundation was laid, a foundation built on honesty, courage, and a newfound sense of self-worth. Her story is a testament to the power of resilience and the importance of self-advocacy. It reminds us that while family can sometimes be a source of pain and frustration, it can also be a source of profound growth and healing. By standing up for herself, Olivia did not close the door on her family. She opened a new one that led to deeper understanding and more authentic connection. In sharing her journey, Olivia hopes to encourage others who find themselves struggling with similar family dynamics. She wants them to know that their voice matters, that setting boundaries is an act of courage and love, and that the path to healthier relationships often begins with the simple but powerful act of saying no. Through her experience, Olivia discovered not only her strength, but also the transformative potential of respect and empathy within even the most complicated family ties. Through the journey of reclaiming her apartment and redefining her place within her family, Olivia Jensen discovered a truth that reshaped her understanding of both herself and the relationships that had once felt confining. The process of standing firm against expectations and demands was not merely an act of defiance. It became a path toward authenticity, healing, and genuine connection. Olivia's experience illuminated the profound importance of boundaries not as barriers designed to isolate or push others away, but as essential frameworks that protect individual identity and create the conditions for respect. For years, she had lived under the weight of assumptions and unspoken rules that minimized her achievements and dismissed her needs. By asserting her right to control her own space and decisions, she was reclaiming more than a physical place. She was reclaiming her voice and her dignity. What surprised Olivia most was how setting these boundaries transformed the family dynamic rather than breaking it. The tension that initially filled rooms and conversations slowly gave way to moments of understanding and vulnerability. Family members began to recognize the necessity of mutual respect and honest communication, even when it meant confronting uncomfortable truths. This shift was neither easy nor instantaneous, but it laid the groundwork for healthier, more authentic relationships. In her renewed relationship with Rachel, Olivia found hope. Their past had been shadowed by rivalry and unspoken resentments, but the process of boundary setting opened a new space for empathy and connection. Rachel's tentative outreach revealed the complexity of her own struggles, shaped by expectations and insecurities that Olivia had not fully seen before. Through patient conversations, the sisters began to build a bridge grounded in mutual respect, rather than competition, discovering a shared desire for a relationship defined by honesty and support. Olivia also learned that family is not a static concept, but an evolving one. The roles and patterns that once seemed fixed could be challenged and changed, but this required courage, persistence, and sometimes discomfort. She realized that love within a family does not demand self-sacrifice to the point of erasure. Instead, love flourishes when each person is seen, heard, and valued as an individual. This understanding extended beyond her family circle. Olivia's newfound confidence in setting boundaries strengthened her interactions with friends, colleagues, and even strangers. She recognized that saying no when necessary was not selfish, but an act of self-care that allowed her to engage with others more fully and authentically. The empowerment she felt rippled outward, touching many aspects of her life and relationships. Perhaps the most profound lesson Olivia carried forward was the recognition that boundaries are acts of love for oneself and love for others. By clearly defining what was acceptable and what was not, she was not building walls but creating spaces where trust and respect could grow. This perspective transformed her approach to conflict and connection, allowing her to engage with others without fear of losing herself. Olivia's story serves as a powerful reminder that personal growth often comes through discomfort and challenge. Standing up to entrenched family expectations required bravery and resilience, but it also opened the door to deeper understanding and healing. It showed that the journey toward authentic relationships is ongoing, filled with moments of setback and progress, but ultimately rewarding. In reclaiming her space, Olivia reclaimed her narrative. She took back the power to define her identity and her place in the family, setting a precedent for how she would be treated moving forward. This act of self-assertion was not just about one apartment or one conflict. It was about forging a life that honored her values, needs, and voice. Olivia's experience encourages anyone feeling overwhelmed by family pressures or societal expectations to find their own courage. It reassures that saying no and setting boundaries is not a betrayal, but a necessary step toward healthier relationships and self-respect. Through honesty, empathy, and determination, even the most complicated family dynamics can evolve toward authenticity and mutual care. Ultimately, Olivia's journey was a testament to the transformative power of self-advocacy and the enduring hope that family ties, while complex, can be strengthened by respect and love that honors every individual's truth. With each passing day, Olivia Jensen felt a growing sense of clarity and strength that had been absent for much of her life. The battle to protect her apartment and assert her independence was about more than physical space. It was a profound declaration of self-worth. Through the turbulence of family conflict, Olivia learned that standing up for herself was not only necessary, but transformative. allowing her to embrace an authentic version of herself that had long been overshadowed by expectation and assumption. This transformation rippled beyond the walls of her apartment and the confines of family drama. Olivia began to see her relationships through a new lens, recognizing patterns that had constrained her not only in her family but in friendships and professional circles as well. She understood that the courage to say no to, insist on respect, and to maintain boundaries was a gift she could give to herself across all areas of life. Olivia's journey taught her that self-advocacy is not a one-time act, but an ongoing commitment, a daily practice of honoring one's needs while navigating the complexities of human connection. It meant embracing vulnerability without sacrificing strength, choosing honesty even when it risked discomfort, and trusting that authenticity would lead to deeper, more meaningful relationships. In family, this meant continuing to challenge old dynamics that no longer served her or her loved ones. It required patience and persistence, recognizing that change is often slow and nonlinear. Yet every small step toward mutual respect felt like a victory, a reaffirmation that healthier patterns were possible. Her relationship with Rachel evolved into one of cautious but genuine openness. The sisters who once operated within unspoken hierarchies now engaged in conversations marked by empathy and shared understanding. Olivia saw Rachel not just as the favored child or a rival, but as a complex person shaped by her own challenges and desires. This perspective deepened their connection and fostered a sisterhood grounded in respect rather than competition. Olivia also found new strength in redefining what family meant to her personally. She realized that family is not merely the people we are born to, but the relationships we nurture through honesty, respect, and care. This realization expanded her circle of support and allowed her to seek connections that honored her growth and values. Perhaps most importantly, Olivia discovered that standing up for oneself need not sever bonds, but can instead build bridges. Boundaries, when communicated with love and clarity, create space for healthier interactions and genuine intimacy. They prevent resentment from festering and allow all parties to engage authentically. Olivia's experience serves as a reminder that growth often arises from discomfort and challenge. The courage to face difficult conversations and assert personal needs is a powerful catalyst for transformation not only within families, but within ourselves. It encourages embracing complexity, rather than seeking simplistic solutions, and honors the messy, beautiful reality of human relationships. As Olivia looks ahead, she carries with her a sense of peace rooted in self-respect and hope. The journey has not been easy, nor is it finished, but she faces the future with a resilience born from knowing her voice matters and that she has the power to shape her life on her terms. Her story invites others to recognize their own strength and the importance of claiming their space, whether physical, emotional, or psychological. It encourages embracing vulnerability without fear, standing firm without aggression, and cultivating connections that nourish rather than drain. In the end, Olivia's path is one of empowerment and healing, a testament to the transformative power of self-love, and the enduring hope that authentic relationships are possible when we honor ourselves and each other with courage and compassion. In the quiet moments after the family gatherings had settled, and the last echoes of confrontation faded, Olivia Jensen stood in the stillness of her apartment and allowed herself to truly breathe. The journey she had endured, the struggle to protect her space, to assert her boundaries, and to claim her voice had fundamentally changed her. This transformation was not just about the apartment or the disputes with her family. It was about reclaiming her life, her sense of self, and her right to live authentically. Olivia realized that true healing comes from within. While external circumstances and relationships shifted around her, the deepest work was the inner process of recognizing her worth and embracing her own truth. She learned that boundaries are not walls to keep others out, but sacred lines drawn to protect one's spirit and dignity. By setting those boundaries, she carved out a space where she could thrive without fear of erosion or invisibility. The past months had taught her about the complexity of family, the beautiful, painful interplay of love, expectation, disappointment, and hope. She came to understand that families are often reflections of our deepest challenges and opportunities for growth. They can hold our history and our potential for change, often demanding that we confront difficult truths and reimagine connection in new ways. Olivia's relationship with her parents and sister, though still evolving, now rested on a foundation of respect that had previously been absent. She witnessed moments where old habits threatened to resurface, but she also saw glimmers of new understanding, small acts of consideration that signaled a gradual shift. It was imperfect and sometimes fragile, but it was real. This fragile authenticity was a far cry from the silent compliances and resentments that had once defined their interactions. More importantly, Olivia found that the courage she cultivated extended beyond family. She brought her newfound strength into her friendships, her work, and her own personal aspirations. She approached life with a clearer sense of what she valued and what she would no longer accept. The experience of standing firm against her family's encroachments had empowered her to say yes to herself in ways she never had before. Olivia's story resonates because it speaks to a universal struggle, the desire to be seen, heard, and respected by those we love, balanced against the fear of conflict and rejection. It reminds us that asserting ourselves does not diminish love. Rather, it deepens it by fostering honesty and mutual regard. When we protect our boundaries, we invite others to meet us where we are authentically and fully. In reflecting on her journey, Olivia hopes to inspire others facing similar challenges. She knows how isolating it can feel to confront family dynamics that dismiss or undermine one's autonomy. Yet she also knows that there is power in claiming one's truth, in speaking up even when it is difficult, and in believing that respect and love can coexist with boundaries. Her experience is a call to courage, an invitation to embrace discomfort as a necessary part of growth, and to trust that the pursuit of authentic connection is worth the struggle. It is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the possibility of transformation when we choose to honor ourselves as fully as we honor those we love. As Olivia looks forward, she carries with her the knowledge that family is not a fixed structure, but a living, breathing relationship that evolves with intention and care. She understands now that the hardest conversations can open the doors to deeper understanding, and that self-respect is the foundation upon which all meaningful relationships are built. In reclaiming her apartment, Olivia reclaimed much more: a voice that could not be silenced, a spirit that would not be diminished, and a life that she could shape with intention and courage. Her story is a powerful reminder that within the complexities of family and love, we all have the capacity to create space for respect, authenticity, and healing.